Hello everyone, we just had a massive panel on Tekken 8 at TGS 2023, which I'm guessing is one of these big video game trade shows. They talked for hours about the game and they showed us a bunch of new modes and features that we didn't know about. So I want to go through it section by section, talk about what we learned, and then also talk a bit about how I feel about all of this. I think the question I want you to have in mind as we talk about the very clear direction this game is taking, it's not ambiguous at all what Namco are trying to do with Tekken 8. And the question I want you to have in mind is, are they trying to make Tekken easier and easier to learn, or are they trying to make learning Tekken less and less necessary? And by the way I phrase that question, you can kind of tell what side of the fence I come down on. But hopefully by the end you will be able to make up your mind about how you feel. Now, they talked a bunch about different single-player modes and learning modes and features, so we're going to go through piece by piece, but I want to start with online battle because I think it is by far the most relevant game mode in this game, and it's by far the most relevant game mode to me personally and many of my viewers. But I'm going to talk about all the other stuff they mentioned as well. But I want to start with online battle. It was a very, very short section in this panel. They didn't talk about it long at all. It didn't seem to be like a huge focus of theirs. Some things that we have learned about online battle is that it's going to be tied to this new game mode or feature called the Battle Lounge. And it's this thing that you can see down here. If you've seen some of the previews of the game and the different bonuses you can get for pre-ordering, there's a bunch of avatar looks and stuff. The idea is that you create your own avatar. You walk around in this, pretty cool looking space, right? And you can sit down at arcade machines and do online battles. You can go outside onto the beach and play Tekken Ball if you want. The thing with this online lounge mode, a lot of Japanese fighting games do this, where they want you to walk around. You always have a huge head on this cutesy, Funko Pop looking avatar, and then you have to go up and talk to people and accept the match and whatever. I think a lot of people might feel that that's cool. Maybe it's a little bit like being in the arcade, but for somebody like me who wants to get a lot of battles in with the limited time that I have, do a lot of learning, do a lot of fighting, do a lot of hopefully ranking up, or if I'm having a bad day, ranking down. This is a bunch of faffing and a big waste of time. I personally will probably not customize my avatar at all because that's not something that will matter to me. And when you start Tekken 7 right now and you go into online battle, you click, online, you pick a ranked match, you pick your character, and it puts you in the lobby. And there are a couple of steps to get to the actual lobby. I feel like this is going to make it so that there are many more steps to getting to the lobby. And I'm very interested in knowing what's going to happen in terms of once you're in there. Can I just go up to an arcade machine, sit down, and then just sit there in the lobby practicing, doing match after match after match, or will there be more time wastes in between? Many of us, a majority of people who play this game don't do it for a living, and so we can't do it all day. Our time is limited and we want to get our battles in and we want to do a lot of learning, and we might not be interested in all this, faffing around with avatars or whatever. So hopefully they've streamlined this in a way where if you're just interested in having competitive battles, you can just get in and start doing that quickly. Who knows, by the time this comes out, there might even be the option to just skip the actual lounge and go straight to the online lobby. It would be very interesting if they did that and the lobby ended up feeling very, very empty because people in general are more interested in playing the game than, walking around playing some sort of, meta game within the game before you can play the actual game. But we'll see what happens. They also mentioned that you have 3 major game modes in online battle: group, which is where you can gather with a specific group of people around these arcade machines. And this is probably, great if, say for example, that I'm doing a stream where you want to play with your friends and you can gather up and hang out in a gang, and while I'm playing somebody, you can go and play somebody else or spectate somebody who is playing. So it feels like some sort of take on tournament mode. So it's a pretty cool idea. You have your quick battles, which is a feature we have currently, and it's just like a casual version of an online match that doesn't affect your rank. And then there's ranked, right? What we know about ranked, what they've said so far, is that they've gone down from 37 ranks, which is what we currently have in Tekken 7, to just 30. And we know that changes like this are very, very... the ranking system in Tekken is very sensitive to change, and these small changes are conducive to dramatic differences in rank distribution, right? It's a completely new ecosystem, so it's going to be difficult to tell what's going to be happening here, but the big prediction, obviously, is that it's going to be generally easier to get max rank than it is currently, because the players are less spread out. And so people who are above a certain level are going to pool in one rank, but the individual levels within that rank are not going to be spread out as much as they are right now. So, if you're able to get the God ranks right now, maybe you're able to, without improving in many different ways, able to get max rank in the next game. But it's way too early to tell. I personally have no issue with there being fewer ranks. I just want the balance in the roster to be solid enough, and for the ranked experience and the point gains and decreases to make sense, to where rank is at least a somewhat accurate representation of skill, and where when you get to the really high ranks, you can consistently play against really strong players and have these fun matches, right? So that's what we know about online. Not a whole lot. One really great thing they've also mentioned is that you have full practice mode functionality in the lobby, which is an amazing feature. I mean, we should have had it all along, but the fact that I don't have to go into practice mode and like set up my opponent's dummy, learn something specific, go back out into the menus and then back into online mode before I can implement something I've learned. It's pretty huge. You're going to go into online, go into the lobby, and then practice, and be offered a match. And if you want to keep practicing, you can deny the match, or you can jump in and take it, So I think that's a really, really good idea, and I'm happy about that. It's a little bit depressing that what I consider to be by far the most important the most used mode in this game, which is online battle, only got a small section in this panel, but there's going to be a bunch more information in the future. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, let's talk a bit about these other things that they revealed. I have the time codes for the video right here, so we can jump into different sections of the video. Thanks to whoever put these time codes together in the comment section of the YouTube vlog. So this is the preview of the story mode. It looks great. It's not something that I am likely to try out, or play. Maybe, to pass the time at some point, or to do like a novelty stream. But again, you can tell as I'm talking about this that my perspective on this is I want to have a lot of fun, challenging matches. I want to learn, and I want to try and get as good at this game as I can, right? That's my main focus. But I have full appreciation for the fact that that's not how everybody feels. And like I've said many, many times, if you want to buy a game like this to just sit in customization mode, put, a swimsuit on Azuzena, and then you only go into matches because you want to take 6 screenshots of her doing the splits wearing a micro bikini, knock yourself out. It's as valid a way to enjoy the game as any. However, I still think that Tekken is special, and a lot of the magic and romance that many of us feel regarding this game has to do with its competitive difficulty and the journey of learning it. I don't feel like, based on this and many choices that the developers have made in the recent past, that they feel the same. But they show the story mode here. I mean, it looks cool, a bunch of anime happening, jumping in the sky, throwing motorcycles, like, it's True Lies with Arnold. But then Jin and Kaz are going to start fighting here, and they start showing you this feature that they really, really are pushing in almost all the material they are releasing, called Special Style. A version of Special Style exists in the game right now, but it's expanded upon here. It's this little panel that you can see on the left underneath Jin's wing right here, and it's this a mode that you can switch to, and you can do it seamlessly during battle, where you no longer have to manually input like your combos or choose your moves. You can press one button and have certain things happen. And so the question that the developers are answering here, because they did that format that people do at game trade shows where they pretend that somebody's asked them questions, I guess, that they can answer, where it's obviously them just having talking points that they want to touch on to market their game. But they said, like, what should a new player do to start learning? And they really recommend this mode right here, which is like a special style, right? And when they were playing, they play some matches at the end where like one opponent is using special style and the other not, and a cool combo comes out, and the developer says in Japanese, look, I'm only pressing this one button. Look how cool this combo is, and I'm doing all this stuff, but I'm only pressing this one button. And like my spontaneous reaction to that, well, it's not cool then, you know? And it doesn't matter. Like, I hope I don't sound elitist when I say this, because I have, full respect for people being intimidated by this game, and I know it has a huge learning curve, probably a bigger one than most other video games ever released. And I, too, have been intimidated and struggled with confidence when it comes to learning this game. But I can tell you this after having made a very long journey with the franchise and having gotten quite far. If you're interested at all in learning this game and getting even like a little bit better at it, not using these modes will be beneficial to you. And I'm being absolutely serious, and I'm trying to like help you. If you're new, or maybe you've never played Tekken before at all, but you want to buy this game and try and learn it, here's what you don't do. You don't jump into a match and start using these pre-packaged combos that require no actual learning of the game mechanics, because if somebody who's also new instead starts learning about the properties of the game, maybe checks out a couple of YouTube videos from an experienced player explaining how things work, and you start struggling, the learning you do will be like lasting and much more impactful long term. This might help you get from like bottom rank to rank 2, but if you want to get any further than that, you're going to have to do actual learning, and it's going to involve, playing and learning the game. And how it's really done. For example, just as like an example of this obviously being true, the prepackaged combos that these systems allow you to do, and probably even the combo recipes that exist in your move list, are never as good as the bread and butter combos developed by the mains that use that character in the end. And so you're much better off watching somebody who knows how to use your character and copying their combos than you are using this special style and then spamming your triangle button on your PlayStation controller and having something cool look out. I mean, I think it's there for people who are absolute, like, I'm trying to not say bottom, but the most casual level, where you just want to get together with friends and mash some buttons because it's fun on a weekend. But Tekken isn't really like something that you're interested in developing as a skill. So, I mean, it's fine for that, I suppose. But I think if you're interested in learning any more than that, this will actually damage your learning process rather than help it. So, me and the developers obviously have a very different perspective on the idea of learning this, right? Next, they also show something called Arcade Quest, which I think looks kind of cute. It's like a different take on single player or story mode, where you can go into arcade and you can get like challenges and missions that you should do in these arcade matches. So it's like a more involved and more developed version of the arcade mode, which I think is kind of cool. And then we have another really, really big feature that people are getting super excited about and talking about. This thing right here might be the most like revolutionizing feature that we've seen so far in Tekken 8. If you're new to like following this franchise, something you might not know, but you will know if you've watched my videos for a while, is that we know that Harada, who basically invented this franchise, has been wanting to implement AI learning into Tekken for a long time. The first time he talked about it publicly, he said that he wanted to have an AI that would learn what you were trying to do and then could do it for you, eliminating the idea of learning difficult execution, which was the most mind-blowingly like out of touch thing ever said by a developer, as how I described it back then. What they've done here instead is You can have an AI analyze the habits and movements of a player, any player, and then the AI will construct a ghost or a fake version of that person that you can then play and practice against. It's an interesting system from what they showed in their, heavily curated and edited panel, right? It's actually quite advanced, and it did something kind of impressive where, like, in Tekken, sometimes when somebody's airborne and you accidentally like poke or jab them, you can float them, and you have to react to that very quickly and convert that into a combo if you're a good player. And the AI actually did something like that in the matches that they showed. So while I do not believe that this will be anything like playing against that real person, while I don't think it will end up being something that competitive players will even use very much as a tool, it does seem to be more advanced than I was expecting, and it is like it's a very interesting step in a new direction for fighting games, right? I can foresee, like, right now, a bunch of people, they're gonna make YouTube videos with a reaction face in the thumbnail going like this, and it's gonna be like, can I beat like main man's Kazuya brackets ghost, right? And it's gonna be them fighting his Kazuya ghost, and it's gonna be like this hype thing for them. But I mean, when Tekken 7 came out, I was not completely new to this franchise, but I couldn't play it well at all. I was very new and I was very bad. And then during that game, I tried to get better and better and better. And then I eventually, because I was watching Main Man's videos and streams, right? And I like looked up to him. He was a player from the same country who did extremely well. He was very popular. And then I got to a level where I can actually play against him and beat him now. Done it plenty of times, and he's beat me plenty of times. He's super good. My point being, it's so incredibly satisfying when you're all of a sudden able to compete with basically your heroes, right? And you get to a certain level. Maybe that's specific to me and a certain kind of player, but you would much rather worry about getting good enough to beat the real player than beating their ghost. However, can the ghost be like a useful tool for learning how to beat a specific person or how to play against a specific character? Maybe. I personally don't see why you wouldn't just play like a bunch of ranked matches and like use that as your learning process. Maybe you want to focus in on like one character who's a problem, and it does make sense. For example, if you look at Brian, it's time to shit on Brian. It's going to happen in every video I ever make. But if you look at a Brian in Tekken 7 and then you look at 5 other Brians, they're going to play the exact same way and use the exact same moves. Because they think the same thing all the time, which is basically nothing, right? They're going to use the exact same things. They're going to hatch a kick, they're going to back one, they're going to 3+4, they're going to back one into 1+2, all these classic things, right? And so if you can get like the ghost of one of those players and practice a lot against it, you might actually be able to then beat many more Brians online and like really, sharpen your skill in that matchup. So in that sense, I guess it's cool. And he brings up knee and Arslan Ash because it appears to be a rule now in the world of Tekken. Whenever I see any discourse on the game online, if you mention knee, you also have to mention Arslan Ash, and the other way around. You don't get to mention just one of them. But you can download like Arslan Ash's Zafina and play against it, which is going to be really insane and exciting if this feature is like mind-blowingly advanced. Otherwise, I think you can just watch him play matches, watch really carefully and think about what he's doing, and you can probably learn more from that, although that's going to require you to have a lot of prior knowledge of the inner workings of the game, right? Like when I watched really high-level competitive players when I was new, I was like, oh, this is cool, and I thought I was like seeing things, but then like as I've gotten better, I now look at it completely differently. And I see other things happening, right? So yeah, it's a cool feature. My prediction is that it won't be used much by competitive players, but you never know. It could be a huge thing. My prediction is not, and I'll just say, personally, I'm not interested in using it, and I would rather just play matches. But again, maybe that's just me. 5150, they talk about the Battle Lounge. which again is this thing I worry about being a time sink for the game. You know, it looks cool, like it's a cool environment that you can run around in, but making like a chibi avatar who's gonna jump around in this like fantasy world, and then you get to play matches. It's just more steps in getting to the matches for me. But I bet a lot of people are gonna find it, you know, fun. They also said that you're able to interact with other players in the lounge. I hope you can't just chat with them and write messages. I hope they've limited it to like, you know, Dark Souls styles, weird little emotes and stuff, because something you might not know about fighting games is that they make people extremely salty. You know, everybody, nobody's immune to it pretty much. And there's a lot of verbal abuse that can potentially happen and take place, and a bunch of like harassment that can happen in a space like this. So, I mean, if Namco are really going to make this like a spot for social interaction between players, they need to really get on the ball in terms of like community guidelines and actually like banning and removing people, because you're going to have serious threats to people's lives day one, minute one, when this game comes out, because it's that sort of an environment. And I think the way to deal with it as a player is to learn to deal with it, you know, with your own frustration and the frustration of others, and be okay with it. Tekken Ball is back. It was fun messing around with Tekken Ball when you were a kid, you know, playing on the PlayStation. But it feels like a novelty, you know, and I would rather play real matches again. But, you know, it's fun. People are happy about it. Can see myself getting together with friends and maybe doing like a Tekken Ball drunk stream or something. Could be cool. But yeah, it's not major for me personally. 130.39. They're gonna talk about the my replay and tips. This system is currently in Tekken 7 already, but it's like a system that can analyze a match that you had and give you tips on, right? Oh, you blocked a launch punishable move here, and you should have done a launch punisher, stuff like that. It's not huge. The one thing I've used like my replay for is like learning punishment, but then again, you can just like set that up with a couple of different options with your opponent's training dummy, and then practice it if you know how to use your practice mode. But again, it's another feature to just like get people learning easily and improving. But it's also like there's a lot of almost unnecessary hand holding here, and I don't see how all of this is better than watching people who are better than you already, playing matches and trying to implement the things that you've learned. And I'm not saying this because like, oh, watch YouTube videos instead of using these modes, because then you'll watch channels like my channel more. Genuinely not. I don't do YouTube for a living. I really enjoy doing content on this game, but you know, that's not my perspective on this at all. I genuinely think that listening to experienced people explaining or showing what they can do, or just watching them play is much more useful than this stuff, even at the very beginning. What this game mode right here isn't teaching you is Tekken terminology, by the way. If it taught you the language that Tekken players speak, that would be cool, because then you could listen to them talk and learn all kinds of things. You know, this feature isn't, again, useless, but I also don't know how useful I think it is. They talk a bit about practice mode at 139. Now, a really cool thing about practice mode is it's going to include frame data. We've heard from the very beginning, and you don't have to pay for it this time. I mean, that's obviously the way they had to do it. Otherwise, it would be one of the most controversial and scumbaggy decisions they've ever made. Don't worry, by the way, Bandai Namco have already made a bunch of very aggressively scumbaggy decisions with the way they're marketing this game. It's disappointed me about 17 times, even though it's not even out yet. But I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But just know for now that the way this game is already being sold is pathetic and dark, and you know, makes my skin crawl. But we'll get to that. And then finally, a really big one, 149, is that there is going to be another closed network test or beta test or whatever you want to call it. Right here, one of these fake questions, right? So it's going to be on October the 20th, Friday, until October the 23rd, Monday. One thing you might be interested in knowing is, obviously you can apply for this. The way it works, because I was in the last one, right, where I applied for the last one, is you apply, and then you get an email saying we've gotten your application, and then if you got in, they send you a couple of days or a day before the test comes out, they roll out these beta codes that you can put in your Steam client, or I'm guessing in your PlayStation, and it allows you to download this beta version of the game that you can play. If you were in the last one, you automatically have access to the new one. So I guess it's going to be they have a patch for the client that you already have installed, and then you can go online, which means that I am in. Because I was in the last one. So if you are interested in, you've listened to this video and you think my perspective on the game is somewhat worthwhile, then feel free to show back up October 20th, and we'll be playing the game and we'll be learning lots of things about it. Not by using these hyper casual game modes, but by actually exploring it through practice mode and matches. But one thing that Bandai Namco have said is that sharing or trying to sell these codes or whatever is not allowed and will get you banned. Now, I am all for it. Bandai Namco have a huge history, especially with Tekken 7, of not banning anybody when it's very, very necessary, because cheaters and hackers and threatening people have been really, really damaging the competitive integrity of online Tekken 7, and Bandai Namco have basically done nothing about it whatsoever at all, even a single time. The one time they talked about and rolled out a couple of bans was when people were leaking stuff or getting access to content early, because that hits them straight in the pocket and it messes with this hype train that they're constantly trying to fucking make happen around this game. So when you're going after their pocket money, they might ban you, but when you are basically ruining the game for everybody else by cheating consistently on camera, with countless, hours of proof for years, they won't do a single thing to touch you, probably because they don't know how. But I am all for Bandai Namco starting to ban people who break the rules. I'm a huge supporter of that idea. Now, I didn't get access to the first beta. One of my viewers got 2 codes and decided to give one to me, which was very kind. Shoutouts to Beal and Snake. That was awesome, dude. So while I do have access to the second beta, I don't know if I'm technically breaking these rules by playing it, even though I wasn't personally sent a code. So Bandai Namco, if you feel like I am not within the rules for doing this, it would be very interesting to see you actually ban me. And I'm obviously going to make a video talking about that if it happens. I will say that I think, worrying about banning me over the people who are currently cheating in Tekken 7 is kind of weird and shows your lack of priorities. But it's at least interesting. We'll see what happens. Maybe we start playing, and then after a while they just shut down my client and I can't play anymore. That would honestly be the most fascinating thing that could happen during this beta. But it's gonna have and again, if you want to ban me for that, if you've stated these are the rules and if you break them you will be banned, and then I get banned, it's a weird thing to ban somebody over, because it's not like, it was part of some sort of scalping operation, but it's at least you saying you will do something and then taking some sort of action. And you've basically never done that before. So I will at least respect you for that. But I hope that's an indication that you will then actually ban people who break other rules, like people who cheat and things like that, right? People who plug even. But yeah, it's going to have Raven and Azucena. Both of these characters look awesome, so it's going to be cool to try them out. I'm also really interested in, developing my Jack a little bit more. And then the other characters that I'm super mega looking forward to in the new game are Leo and Zafina. I really want to play them. But there you go. They kind of waste the last 11 minutes of the stream trying to sell you, dumb dog shit for children. If you want to buy this overpriced plastic, then there you go. I'm being disingenuous, but there's some sort of weird Xiaoyu not Funko Pop here that, they don't even have a picture of it. But the having huge heads is like a big thing apparently in the new aesthetic that they're trying to roll out. It's called a Nendoroid. So there you go. If you want to buy this chibi for, I'm guessing, a bunch of money and have it on your shelf next to your, Funko Pops when you're wearing your Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles t-shirt and going, my boys, we're going to be playing some Tekken. I'm going to fight main man's Kazuya Ghost, in your videos, then this is for you. Thank you so much for watching this video. I'm remembering here at the very end that there's one thing that I forgot to mention. So I'll just touch on it quickly. It's in the online section of the video. They mentioned that there's a spectate mode right now, which means that you can go up to any player who is just playing online and spectate their matches. The reason I don't think that is good is that people get very self-conscious about this game. They talk about it in the panel. I feel sad and scared when I have to play Tekken, and people being able to just drop in and watch you whenever they want to doesn't exactly help that. Another thing is, if I know that, one of my favorite streamers, the main man Sui is online and playing Kazuya, and I want to watch him play Kazuya, I can now choose to go into the game and go up to where he's sitting and just spectate his matches instead of going to Twitch and watching his stream, which might theoretically siphon viewership for the people who make a living actually streaming this game, which I think is sad. So all they need to do to alleviate any worry I have about the spectate thing is you just need to put a mode in the game where you can say, I do not want to be spectated. Because then if you want to play in private and you don't want people watching you, potentially harassing you when you're just trying to have a couple of online matches by yourself, incognito, you should be able to do that. And if you are a streamer and you would rather have people come to the place where you make your living, on Twitch or YouTube, instead of just watching you through the game, then you have the option of turning that off as well. And I think that's very, very important. So that's I mean, if there's already been an indication that will be in the game, I missed it. But it's one of the most important things that they need to tell us soon. Can you deactivate spectators? But most video games that have a spectate mode also have a don't allow spectators mode. I mean, even Pokemon Showdown has that, right? So I really hope Tekken does as well. Otherwise, it's sorely needed. But buy some very expensive plastic. Buy pre-order a collector's edition of Tekken 8 for $300 fucking dollars. Get hype, and in the early stages of next year, the game's going to be out. And again, I'll see you back here in late October for some beta or network testing. Maybe we'll get banned. It's very exciting. Thank you very much, and I'll see you guys in the next video.